I joined what I thought was a dream job, great pay, big promises. Slowly, I uncovered the truth. We were scamming people and I was just another disposable pawn. Before they could get rid of me, I hacked the system and took $80 million. Now I live off the grid, rich but alone, always looking over my shoulder. I wasn't looking for anything special. Just a job to pay rent, maybe save enough to fix my rusted Toyota and buy decent groceries instead of ramen and instant coffee. When I saw the job posting, it sounded too good to be true, fast-growing tech firm. Base salary, $6,500 per month. Remote. No experience required. I applied with a barely updated resume, half expecting it to bounce back. But they called the next day. The interview was strange. The guy on Zoom wore a black hoodie, and behind him was a messy apartment, not some sleek office like I'd expected. He didn't ask me anything technical. Just, "Are you comfortable on the phone? Can you lie without stuttering? Are you okay with some moral gray areas?" I laughed, assuming it was a joke. He didn't laugh back. Still, I needed the job. So I said yes. They trained me fast. I was told we were a financial recovery firm, helping people who lost money to online scams recover their funds. My job? Call victims, assure them we had insider tools, charge a legal processing fee, and pretend we were working their case. It sounded legit enough. Until I noticed something. The same names were cycling through. People we'd helped last month were back again. Desperate. Begging. Angry. One old woman cried on the phone. Said we took her last $3,000. Said she couldn't pay rent. When I asked my supervisor, he replied coldly, "If she was stupid enough to fall for one scam, she's stupid enough for two." That night I couldn't sleep. I went through the company dashboard and realized none of our clients ever received help. No lawyers. No refunds. Just a CRM full of broken people and notes like, "Try again next month." I was working for scammers. But that wasn't even the worst part. I should have quit. I wanted to. I even drafted a resignation email. But I didn't hit send. I told myself I needed more proof. Maybe I could report them, be the good guy, blow the whistle. I wasn't complicit yet, right? Wrong. The next morning, they gave me a promotion. Now I was in charge of Team Echo, a group of 5 rookies trained to say whatever it took to close a sale. I listened in on their calls. They were even better liars than me. I watched one of them tell a man with cancer that we'd recovered his life savings. We just needed $4,000 more to release the funds from escrow. The man thanked her, cried, and paid. She got a $700 bonus that afternoon. Everyone cheered. I started digging deeper. The company wasn't registered anywhere real. The website was just a WordPress shell with fake testimonials and a stolen logo. The CEO, Michael Ross, didn't exist outside LinkedIn. No photos. No videos. Nothing verifiable. I ran a reverse image search on his profile picture. Stock photo. Then I made a mistake. I messaged someone on Reddit who had posted about being scammed by a company with the same pitch. I told him I might have information. I thought I was anonymous. But somehow, someone knew. The next day, I received a package at my apartment. No return address. Inside, a burner phone, turned on. One text was already there. "Stop looking. You're being watched." I nearly threw up. I called out sick. Spent the entire day staring out the window, waiting for something, someone, to appear. But nothing did. When I logged in the next day, my dashboard was gone. Wiped clean. My Team Echo replaced with different names. My supervisor wouldn't answer my messages. Then came the email. "Due to restructuring, your role is now focused on internal compliance. Details to follow." They were pulling me in closer. Instead of making calls, I was now reviewing risk profiles. My job was to identify potential whistleblowers, leakers, or employees with a conscience. I was supposed to report them, silence them. They trusted me. Or maybe they were testing me. Either way, I played along. But now I had access to everything. The client lists, the payment processors, the offshore accounts, and an internal memo that chilled me to the bone. Cycle out the high-emotion clients before legal attention increases. Bury traces. Use fire protocol if necessary. Fire protocol? That's when I realized this wasn't just about scamming people. People were disappearing. I couldn't sleep. The phrase fire protocol kept playing in my head like a scratched record. I started to question everything I thought I knew about the company and about myself. What had I gotten into? I ran a search in the internal server using the exact phrase. Only 3 results. Each was a case file, client ID numbers, transcripts, recorded phone calls, and one chilling status update on each. Deceased. Case closed. No further action. One was a retired veteran from Michigan. Another, a widowed schoolteacher from Arizona. The third, a woman who had recorded a phone call threatening to expose the scam on a podcast. I listened to the last recording. The woman's voice was shaky but determined. She described the entire scheme with eerie precision. She even mentioned the offshore accounts. Then her voice cut off mid-sentence. The last few seconds of the file were just silence. And then a faint whisper, "They're already inside." I wanted to puke. This wasn't just fraud. These people had power, real, invisible, merciless power. The kind that doesn't just empty your bank account but erases your existence. I backed away slowly from my desk, looked over my shoulder, and disconnected my personal laptop from the Wi-Fi. I'd already copied hundreds of files. Evidence. Names. Dates. I kept them on an encrypted USB drive, wore it around my neck like a religious artifact. And then, I started planning. But not to leak. Not to expose. No. To steal. If I was already complicit, if I was already in this deep, maybe I could walk away, not broke, not a martyr. Just one last job. One perfect exit. I knew where the funds were routed, a tangled web of shell companies and crypto wallets bouncing between countries. But they had one blind spot, the processing lag. Every Friday afternoon, $2.7 million sat in a temporary holding account for exactly 6 hours. 6 hours of vulnerability. 6 hours where the company's entire liquidity was floating in digital limbo. 6 hours for me to strike. I needed access codes, the kind only a few people had. One of them was a guy named Ryan, a mid-level data admin who didn't know how valuable he was. So I made him my friend. Happy hours. Shared Uber rides. I even played fantasy football with him. Every time he got drunk, I got closer to his login credentials. One night, he passed out in my apartment. I took his phone, took screenshots of his 2FA tokens, and memorized his security questions. I returned it before he woke up. I was in. The next Friday, I pretended to be sick again. But I wasn't in bed. I was at a co-working space under a fake identity, laptop open, fingers trembling over the keyboard. At 3:58 p.m., the funds appeared in the interim ledger. At 4:03, I rerouted $1.7 million to an anonymous wallet I had created months earlier under a fake Eastern European shell corp. At 4:07, I logged out, wiped everything. At 4:10, I turned off my phone, dropped it in the trash outside the co-working space, and walked 3 blocks to a prepaid rental car. By 4:45, I was on the highway heading west. I thought I'd feel euphoric. Like the hero of a heist movie riding off into the sunset with a bag full of justice and cash. Instead, I felt hunted. Every billboard felt like an accusation. Every highway patrol car, a countdown. I changed motels every 2 nights. Paid in cash. Dyed my hair. Even gave myself a new name, Eric Doyle, a name stolen from a grave in Kentucky. The money sat in a cold wallet I kept duct-taped under the driver's seat. I hadn't touched a cent. Not yet. I figured I had time. That I'd done it clean. But on the 7th day, I found a white envelope slipped under my motel door. No name. No stamp. Just a single sheet of paper inside. "We know what you did, Eric." That was it. No threats. No logo. Just quiet awareness. I panicked. Left the motel that minute. Threw away the burner phone. Took back roads for hours, no destination, just movement. I kept checking the rearview mirror like I expected someone to be there. Black SUV, tinted windows, no plates. They weren't. But that made it worse. Because it meant they were better at this than I was. I finally stopped in a rural Nevada town, population maybe 500, no surveillance, no data towers. I rented a cabin off a guy who didn't ask for ID, just cash and a handshake. I told him I was writing a book. He said nobody would bother me out there. I believed him. Weeks passed. I started to think maybe I'd outrun them. The paranoia dulled into a background hum. I even began sketching out a plan. I'd cross into Canada, assume a new identity for real this time. Maybe settle in some coastal village where nobody cared who you used to be. And then something shifted. One morning, I woke up and the USB wallet was gone. The one with the $1.7 million. The duct tape was still in place, but the drive was gone. No break-in. No fingerprints. Just gone. That night, I heard something scratching at the cabin door. Not knocking. Scratching. When I opened it, there was nothing. No footprints. Just the desert wind and an unlit cigarette left on the doormat. The brand? Red Strike. The same cigarettes my old boss used to chain smoke outside the data center. That was when I knew. They weren't going to kill me. They were going to dismantle me. Erase me. Take everything piece by piece. Not out of anger, but as a warning to the next fool who thought he could beat them at their own game. I started living in silence. No internet. No phone. No electricity. Just canned food, a solar lamp, and a wind-up radio that barely caught anything beyond garbled static and Christian sermons from Utah. I stopped sleeping fully. Every night I jolted awake, heart pounding, sure I'd heard something. Footsteps on gravel, whispers behind the walls, a phone ringing when there was no phone. Then I found the mirror. It wasn't mine. I hadn't brought it in. Just a small round mirror resting perfectly centered on the kitchen table one morning. Clean, polished, reflecting nothing but the ceiling fan that hadn't spun in weeks. That was the first message. The second came the next day in the form of a newspaper clipping tucked under my pillow. It was from a local paper, not digital, not archived, talking about an unidentified man found dead in a burned cabin 20 miles south. He had my description, my fake name. They were preparing the story in advance. I left that same hour, barefoot, no bag, nothing. I made it to the highway and flagged down a trucker. Told him I'd been hiking and got lost. He gave me coffee, a ride, and a look that said he didn't believe a word I said, but he didn't care. The city felt different, colder, like it had turned its back on me. I tried to check into a hostel. They said my ID came up flagged. I hadn't used it in weeks. I tried to take money out of a hidden emergency account I'd made years ago. The ATM took the card, just swallowed it. No record of my bank login. No recovery option. Then I tried to call my real name's number, my mom's old house, disconnected. I Googled myself. Nothing. No mentions, no records, not even old LinkedIn profiles or tagged high school photos. I didn't exist anymore. I wasn't a ghost. I was being cleansed. Then the phone rang. A payphone behind a liquor store. I answered instinctively. Eric, a woman's voice said, calm, professional, tired. You should have just left the money. I didn't respond. My throat had closed up. I think I nodded. She hung up. I turned around. The liquor store window had a help wanted sign. Handwritten. Fading. And for one stupid, desperate moment, I thought about applying. I made a choice. If they were erasing me, I'd erase them first. There was one access point left, an unregistered laptop I had buried in an abandoned storage unit 6 months before going dark. No GPS, no Wi-Fi history, no fingerprints left behind. It was my dead man's switch, my nuclear option. I pulled it from its dusty case like a sacred relic. Battery still alive, barely. I jacked into a stolen mobile hotspot, routed through 6 proxies, and logged into a backdoor I'd programmed on a paranoid whim when I first joined Petrolese. Not to the fake accounts, not to the shell companies, but to the root, the accounting core of everything. Every offshore transfer, every wallet key, every ledger entry. And it was all still there. They hadn't found it. Yet, I moved quickly, hands shaking but accurate. Millions, no, hundreds of millions bouncing between accounts, laundering themselves into fresh names. Every 5 seconds, I wiped the IP. Every 30, I triggered a dummy alert to make the system think a breach was happening in Helsinki. I didn't stop until the account said, transfer complete, $82,406,291.18. And then, I hit delete. Not just the traces, not just the logs. I nuked the root. A digital black hole. Every trace of the database imploded in on itself, unrecoverable, unrebuildable. Then the laptop sparked, overheated, and died in my lap. Smoke. Silence. And I laughed. Harder than I ever had in my life. Like a man crawling out of his own grave. For 3 days, I didn't move. I didn't eat. I waited to be found, to be dragged back, shot in a basement, pushed off a ferry in the night. But no one came. Not a soul. I booked a bus to a border town. Switched IDs with a drunk tourist. Hopped on a truck headed south. Kept moving. Now I live in a beach shack in a country without extradition treaties. I drink cheap beer and watch sunsets like I used to watch firewalls. The money's spread in 20 pieces across the globe. I'll never use most of it, but I keep enough to eat, to sleep well, to smile. Some nights I still check the mirror, still wonder if someone's watching, but no one ever comes. And sometimes, only sometimes, I miss the life. I miss being someone. But I'd rather be a ghost with 80 million than a good man with nothing. Hey, guys, I hope you enjoyed the story. Please let me know in the comments your opinion. And, of course, subscribe for more.